everybody. Okay, so this is the first time I'm doing a video and maybe somebody will actually watch it. Well, I know someone might. But I want to debunk KAYPODGEE'S TikTok, which has gone viral, where she pretends to debunk the little season by conflating it with preterism, which it is not. Little seasonism is not preterism at all. We'll get there. But I need to go back a little bit. So about sort of around the 23rd of January or whatever, Brett Flat Earth Bible, Jesus, sent out a tweet, this tweet, and it says, asking me to believe Jesus already came back is like asking me to believe in the globe. Notes, in red, proves Jesus has not already come back. Cherry picking a few verses out of context with no evidence and only theories to back it up is exactly what global Christians do. Anyway, so I replied to that tweet and sort of gave a generic background and basically saying, because we were mutuals, basically saying, look, these are the reasons I think we are probably in the little seasons, the most likely scenario. And he then replied with, deal with my red points. So I said, okay, well, do it for me properly and I will. Make it so I can read it because it's all squashed. By the way, be careful of memes with lots of writing on them. Check the facts, you know. Quite often they're done deliberately to look like it's factual, and when you check them, they aren't. Anyway, so he did give them to me, and I then made 85 slides to debunk every single point. And I also dealt with a bit on the left here, where he states the reasons why Jesus already came back, according to what he thinks we think, okay? Which is also nonsense, by the way. And I dropped that for him. I got no reply. No reply. Okay, that's interesting. Then 2 days ago, I see him sending out this tweet. And KAYPODGEE'S doctrinally, whatever he said about her there, and he sent it out, and I just knew something's very off here. Because it means, because I listened to what she said, and she basically repeated some of the stuff that he had in his meme. Not all of it, because there was a lot of stuff in his meme. I mean, it took me 85 slides to debunk it. But she repeated it, which I find odd. Okay, so no reply from him. It's like he'd never read what I had written, which makes him at best intellectually dishonest. Okay, because he too conflated preterism with little seasonism and then had a dig at little seasonism. Now that's not honest. I don't like any form of dishonesty, so I blocked him. And he then posted my block of him with a wow, adults can't disagree. No, Brett, it's not about that. It's about don't be intellectually dishonest. I dealt with your red points. Deal with my debunks. Don't persist sending out the same tosh. That's not intellectually honest at best. At best. Not, oh, adults can't agree, c'est la vie. By the way, that's not spelled right, but whatever. C'est la vie, CSW. I see you, buddy. You know, the people who are having a go at the little season, and by the way, it's going to get worse. They're very slick, are the people who are trying to debunk little seasonism. One of the ways they do it is they do it by conflating it with preterism when it's not that. And they say a lot of stuff, and if you don't nail every single one of the things that they say, a lot of things will just pass you by, okay? So I'm giving you this as context before we deal with K. So I'll be as brief as possible, and hopefully after this you'll see why I think they're actually both deceivers. I think they are here to diss the little season. They both, he certainly knows, because we've told him several times, that little seasonism is not preterism. It's not the same thing at all. So to pretend he doesn't know that is not intellectually honest, and to then send her out repeating the same stuff that had been debunked by me end of January. To me, that smells. Okay, so that as context. So let's have a squiz. The first problem we have straight away, before we even started looking at it, is that she says we are not in a short season, and then below that she says preterism debunk. Okay, that is a terrible error to make, because what she's doing is she's conflating preterism with little seasonism. It's not the same thing. All eschatology is fake. Preterism, futurism, historicism, and idealism, and all the subcategories, whether full or partial preterism, whether millennialism, whether post-millennialism, whether pre-trib, mid-trib, whatever, that's futurism actually. All of it is fake. Okay, preterism is not little seasonism at all. You've got to work that out. It spiritualizes stuff that it doesn't understand. It says a lot of the things, everything happening. That's not what little seasonism says. Okay, let's just get that right. So the first problem we have here is that she is conflating preterism with little seasonism, which is an error, which means everything else she does after this will be based on that false premise. And because people don't know any better, they'll fall for it. Do your homework, compare preterism, partial preterism, and full preterism with what little seasonism. It's not the same thing at all. So, under both, by the way, preterism and futurism were created by the Jesuit priests, two separate Jesuit priests. One in the 1600s and the other in the 1700s. So, you can't say little seasonism is preterism, and preterism was created by the Jesuit, and conveniently ignore that so was futurism. Why do people do that? It's intellectually dishonest. Okay, but let's look at what she says. I have a feeling this is going to take a while because every second sentence is hogwash, but let's start. Okay, let's go, Kay.
We are not in the short season. Preterism is a satanic deception that you only fall for if you do not read the Bible.
Okay, now right here is absolute hogwash, because what she's done is she's conflated preterism with little seasonism. She's called preterism a satanic deception, and taken a swipe at all little seasonists at the same time. Do you see the deception? Do you see how disingenuous that is? Because the two are not the same thing. So that's the one thing. The second thing is what it does is it goes, ooh, she sounds so convincing, and preterism is now little seasonism, and I don't want to be seen to not be reading my Bible. So even if I want to entertain the little season, I won't be doing that, because that makes me a bad Christian, and it makes me like I don't read the Bible. It's a tactic. Don't fall for it.
Let's debunk it with common sense.
Sorry, I have to stop her again. So let's debunk this with common sense. Now remember, she comes from conflating preterism with little seasonism. The two are not the same thing. But now she's going, let's debunk it with common sense. That's a tactic, because what it does is it says, if you don't see this, you don't have any common sense. It's a deliberate tactic. Do you see it? Don't fall for it. They do this all the time. They rope you in with, I'm going to give you some common sense. And then they talk hogwash, but because they set you up thinking this is common sense, you believe it. You stop listening. That's what they do. Don't fall for it. It's a lie.
First off, the firmament is still there. There's still stars in the sky.
Again, she's conflating preterism with little seasonism. Little seasonism doesn't say it's all over, okay? I debunked this in my thread the other day. One of the things on Brett's meme, this meme that he gave me, which I debunked point for point, was the firmament and the stars are all still there. And then Isaiah 34:4 and Revelation 6:13 were quoted, okay, as proof for that statement. I debunked that. The first thing I said was, I don't see the word firmament anywhere in these verses. Let's look at the verses. Isaiah 34:4 from the KJV, and all the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and all their hosts shall fall down. Okay, I don't see firmament, and I don't see stars in that verse, but then look at Revelation. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Okay, the stars here mean the host of heaven, people, not physical stars. It clearly says the host of heaven, and Revelation 6:13 then describes the stars the same way. Spirit beings, not stars. Secondly, any good flat earther will know that stars aren't pieces of rock, aren't what they say stars are, whatever they say they are. They're light outside the dome. Okay? How do these fall, Zachary? Explain to me, please, because I can't see it. So you can't be a flat earther the one day and a globey the next while trying to conflate preterism with little seasonism and talking hogwash. Well, which clearly Kay can, but I don't think it should be allowed. I think it's nonsense. Let's carry on watching.
Heaven and earth are not combined. We're not in hell. We're on earth. We still have the sea. There's going to be no more seas.
Obviously, Kay. It's not hard. It's only hard when you conflate preterism with little seasonism. That you can say that kind of thing and get away with it. We are not preterists. You are now talking about Revelation 21, which is after the little season. No more sorrow, no more tears, no more wars, no more seas. We know, Kay. We feel the same way. We know we're not in hell. And we know that there are seas. And we can see it. And it's okay. Calm down. We are not preterists. So don't conflate preterism with little seasonism and have a dig at little seasonism. It's not a good look. It seems deliberate to me. At best, intellectually dishonest. Let's watch.
At the second coming, Jesus will restore the original language before the Tower of Babel. I'm fairly certain that we're not speaking the language that Adam and Eve were speaking. There's many different languages.
Okay, the first thing she does here is she conflates the second advent with the great white throne judgment. All futurists do that. They think it's the same thing. So she's literally conflating the second advent in her head with what it says about the great white throne judgment. And they all do it. All futurists do that. But it's a lie. So Zephaniah 3:9, which she refers to here, is a great white throne judgment post-New Jerusalem verse. It's not a second advent verse. For then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of the Lord to serve him with one consent. Okay. This is after the white throne judgment. It's in the new heavens and the new earth. Okay. So once again, she's conflating preterism with little seasonism. We don't think the white throne judgment has already happened. We're not idiots. Okay. But note her tone. Her tone is, lots of different languages. We can also do, don't be dumb. Tactic. While she's the one who's being intellectually dishonest and conflating preterism with little seasonism. We know there's no one language. We also know that Zephaniah 3:9 refers to when everything is fully restored, which is after the great white throne judgment. That's Revelation 21. Zephaniah 3:9 is not about the second advent, okay? It's about after the great white throne judgment. Let's watch.
God promised in Genesis that he would never flood the earth again, so the mud flood doesn't work.
Yes, Kay, we know. He did promise, and he keeps his word. He keeps everything he says. Everything he promises, he keeps. That's what we say. Now, the mud flood wasn't a flood. Wake up. Okay? You can see it all around you. It's everywhere. Lots of good channels cover it. It's got nothing to do with the so-called Tartaria, which is also a red herring to lead you away from Christ. It's also done to hide the millennial reign. It's done to get you to previous advanced civilizations and hogwash, okay? But it's done to hide the millennial reign. 2, the whole Tartaria narrative. Tartary existed as a section of the world, yes. But not everything was Tartaria, okay? Moving on from that. So yes, no flood. But what happens when you have earthquakes, okay? Have you thought about it? God's wrath pouring out on the world with melted buildings everywhere, melted cities everywhere. What happens, okay? What do you think happens to the earth with all that going down? Ever heard of soil liquefaction? That's what happened. So the buildings and all these things, all these places were not flooded with a flood. It sank. Do you see the difference, Kay? You can't just say the mud flood doesn't work. What do you mean the mud flood doesn't work? There's evidence of another, by the way, they call it the mud flood also to hide the rain. Because they want people to go, God promised that there would never be another flood, so the mud flood is not biblical. It's not a mud flood. It was soil liquefaction. Things sank. And if they didn't sink, they got burnt up and melted. Biblical stuff, okay? Proof worldwide. You can't ignore that evidence as though it didn't happen, okay? Ignoring the obvious evidence, like one ignores a stop street in a crime neighborhood, is not a good look.
When Jesus says that some standing here will not pass, that's John. John has no recorded death. John is still alive somewhere on this flat biblical earth.
Okay, this is not the finest moment of your presentation, I have to say. I'm assuming that you mean John the Apostle and not John the Baptist, because he got beheaded. But what you're telling us to believe, and I think you're going to lose futurists here too, is that we have a 2,000-year-old John walking around or something. And he's hiding himself. Don't do leaps like that, Kay. It's not a good look. Okay? It just makes you look desperate to try and debunk the little season, the truth, by conflating it with preterism and then throwing a bit of magic in there. Don't do that.
When Jesus said this generation will not pass, you have to cross-reference verses to understand what he's saying.
Well, in my opinion, it's pretty clear what he means. But besides cross-referencing verses, which we all do, Kay, even as non-Bible reading people, according to you, because apparently we preterists when we're not, we also do that. I know it's astonishing, but we do. So not only do we have to do that, we also need to go to the Greek. Okay, we need to go to the Greek. So let's quickly go to the Greek. Let's do that right now. So, all right. Now, the Greek word genia refers to a group of people living at the same time, a generation, not an ethnic race. The Greek word for race is genos, not genia. The word he uses here is genia. Okay, so a group of people living at the same time, not an ethnic race, but a generation. It's not even an ethnic race, by the way, that's another story, but you haven't got that far yet.
Strong's G, 1074, Genea.
So he's definitely speaking about genia, not genos.
Strong's G, 1074, Genea.
He's talking about the blues.
No, he's not. I just explained it to you, Kay.
Every time that the word generation is used, it's always in reference to the Pharisees.
Okay, it's not very good because Matthew 24:34, this generation, that is genia, not a race. Matthew 13:30, verily I say unto you that this generation shall not pass. Genia, not a race. Luke 21:32, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Genia, not genos. It's not a race. That's the first thing. The second thing is the Pharisees are not the blues, as you call them. Okay, quite a different thing, but you clearly haven't got there yet. The Pharisees were a specific religious sect within Bluedaism, known for strict adherence to the law and traditions. Okay, all right. The blues, in fact, were from Judea. Judean. That's why they were called the Bluedeans. And people now think it's the blues. Okay. And they had subgroups like Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes, Zealots, and common people. Okay, other people. So maybe get a blue letter Bible. Might be a good thing for you to do.
Like when he says this evil, wicked generation always asking for a sign, when he's talking to the Pharisees, he's saying that the blues will not be totally destroyed until the end, like how in Revelation it talks specifically about destroying them.
Okay, you're doing the same thing here. You're now referring to Matthew 12:39. But he answered and said unto them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. And you referring to Matthew 16:4. A wicked and adulterous generation seek after a sign. And you're referring to Luke 11:29. And when the people were gathered thick together, he began to say, this is an evil generation. They seek a sign. All three of those verses are genia, not genos. Stop fibbing. Don't fib. Okay, so what she's done here is she's gone and fibbed about the meaning of generation to try and make it about the blues. And why did she do that? Why did she do that? Why is this important? Because that gives one a gap to throw it into the future without dealing with the word this. She circumvented having to deal with the word this generation. Not that generation, this generation. And she's done it by focusing on the word generation and then misinterpreted it to mean race. You see how clever it is? Very deceptive. Very.
We're not all walking around with marks on our hand or forehead to be able to buy or sell. Everybody will have the mark of the beast.
But now who said in the Little Season group, who's ever said that we should be walking, or what are you even talking about? You see, again, what you're doing is you're conflating preterism with Little Seasonism. It's not the same thing. So, I mean, that's just not bright. It's unbright. It's brain matter challenged. Or it's under-researched, or it's a deliberate fib. So you're literally throwing mud at the wall, hoping it'll stick. And the reason you're doing it is because you're relying on how you come across, what you look like. You started off by conflating preterism with Little Seasonism. You threw in that it's satanic, and if you believe it, you're deceived and you don't read the Bible. Bad Christian, tut, tut, tut. And you got people following every word you say. Meantime, you're actually lying through your toofs. Your pretty toofs. I just see it. See straight through you.
Claim Nero is the Antichrist. Nero never went to Jerusalem.
Okay, now people need to concentrate because this is an enormous red herring. And also, Little Seasonists, listen up too. Nowhere in the Bible does it explicitly state that a future Antichrist must go to the temple in Jerusalem. Nowhere. Even Little Seasonists make this mistake. They use a futurist eschatological viewpoint to go and look for an Antichrist back in 70 AD. Okay? So, such a ruse. The idea of a future Antichrist, specifically connected to Jerusalem, became much more pronounced with the rise of futurism. Okay? And that was a school of eschatological thought that emerged when? In the 17th century. And who made it happen? Francisco Ribera. Who was he? A Jesuitiate priest. And he promoted the idea that many of the prophecies in Daniel and Revelation were to be fulfilled in the future. Listen to that part again, because this Nero never went to Jerusalem is total hogwash. It's nonsense. It's based on a false interpretation of something that's not even in the Bible. And then this futurism view was further formalized by guess who? John Nelson Darby. When? 1830. Doing what? Dispensationalism. And he's the one who advanced the belief that the Antichrist would be a future leader who would establish control over Jerusalem and desecrate the Jewish temple. And now, because of Darby and Jesuituti nonsense, we have people like Kay demanding that we identify an Antichrist in the temple in 70 AD. And little Caesarists are now also running around looking for an Antichrist in the temple in 70 AD. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And that brings us to a false temple. There's no third temple prophesied in the Bible either. But most people think there is. There isn't. Not only that, that gave them, in inverted commas, the need for a state in which there needed to be then a third temple. So what did they do? They created the state in 1948. Do you see it? So we need to reframe. Because if we don't reframe, we'll have people like Kay trotting the plane, spreading the gospel of futurist lies, demanding from little Caesarists, while conflating them with preterists, that we find an Antichrist in the temple in 70 AD when we shouldn't have to. Why don't we have to? Because the link between an Antichrist and a physical temple in 70 AD is based on futurist hogwash.
In 70 AD, the world population was about 170 million. In Revelation, there's an army of 200 million.
I debunked that. Scholars say, Neil Ferguson says 200 million. Cynthia Stokes-Brown says 300 million. Matthew White says 300 million. James Roberts says 250 million. William H. McNeill says 250 million. Claude Nicolay, 200 million. So where does this 170 million come from? That's another fib. Keeps cropping up, and I can't find the scholar who said 170 million. People, it's a serious red flag when people cherry pick things. Scholars. When there are several scholars around on this topic who do not say that, but you pick one that I can't find, so does he even exist, or you bring up a figure that you don't back up that supports a lie. Why do people do that? What's the payoff to do that? It's very worrisome.
Let's not forget the Bible tells us the earth is about 6,000 years old. So just based on timelines, we know a day is like 1,000 years. So I would say it's pretty reasonable to say that 6,000 years of humanity and 1,000 years millennial reign, which we would be coming up on, they make Satan their god by assigning him a 1,000-year reign, when if you do the math, you would come up with about 3 to 4 years max for the short season.
Okay. This is a complete mess, what she's saying here, because on the one hand, she's trying to say, we know from the Bible the earth is 6,000 years old, and the millennial reign's coming up, and that's the 7,000th year. So doing the 1 week thing, 1 day, 1,000 years, and that's now the week, okay? That verse, 2 Peter 3:8, but do not forget this one thing, dear friends, with the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. It's not a literal timeline thing at all. It's about God's eternal nature. But okay, let's just believe her there. So she's saying we've got 6,000 years old. That's nonsense, by the way. Tell you why. For two reasons. Look, let's look at it one way. If the creation week, days, okay, the days, if she now wants to use the 1 day, 1,000 years thing, then she must do that during creation week 2. Do you understand what I'm saying? So she's got to go, day 1 was 1,000 years, day 2 was 1,000 years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th day he rested. And then plus another 6,000, so we must be at least at 13,000. You with me? Okay, so let's do it that. So the argument doesn't work that way. Let's do it the other way. Let's say, okay, it's 6,000 years. Let's pretend just for the sake of argument, that it's 6,000 years. That is based on genealogies from Adam to Jesus, 6,000 years. By the way, that's why they fiddle with the Septuagint's begat genealogies, is to throw that out of sync. But whatever, another story. The old Septuagint, the 350 BC one. But let's pretend it's 6,000 years to Jesus. And she says we're now coming up for the Millennial Reign. What? 2,000 years later. So it's 6 plus 2 plus a millennial. So it's now 9,000 years. Is that what she's saying? What is she saying? I personally don't like bad arguments. I don't like it. I find them lazy. And when they are touted by people who are trying to make a point that actually they can't defend, and they have to lie, and they have to do things like what she just did there. You know? Not for me. No likey.
This is a false satanic doctrine. Everybody that believes that we are in the short season, I can immediately tell that they have not read the Bible.
In my humble opinion, Kay, I think if people watch this video, they will disagree with you. They'll wonder whether you've read the Bible in an open and honest manner. And they will also wonder why you fib to get where you need to be. So don't do that. I see straight through that. I can immediately tell that they haven't read the Bible. Bad Christian you, tut, tut, tut. Don't agree with anything little season because it's satanic. Tut, 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 you haven't read the Bible. Biblically illiterate. That is a them tactic, people. By the way, on the screen right now it says, why would God allow Satan 1,000 years with a face palm? That's not what we're saying. Read Revelation 20. The millennial reign is 1,000 years. Okay? And thereafter, Satan is loosed for a short season. Wake up.
They prefer conspiracy theories that tell them what the Bible says. And I'm a conspiracy theory person, but not about the Bible. When I can read it myself, I don't need somebody else to tell me what it says.
Okay, so here she disses conspiracy theorists, okay? And then she quickly goes, oh, but I'm one myself. But not when it's the Bible. There I can read the Bible for myself. I don't need anybody to tell me what it says. No, nor do we. That's exactly what we're saying. So who's reading it better? Us or you, bud? Because we're all reading it. What I can tell you is that we're reading it with a few sort of help tools in hand, like the Blue Letter Bible, so that we don't conflate genos with genia. You know, basic things like that.
I don't say this to hurt feelings. I'm not going to be arguing with anybody in the comments about this.
Methinks this is a fib. She knows exactly what she's doing by calling people who believe in the little season, by conflating it with preterism. She knows exactly what she's doing. And she knows she's going to upset people. And she knows the fact that she says, I can immediately tell they haven't read the Bible, and they're part of a satanic belief system. She knows what she's doing. And then, so that's a lie, what she said. I'm not doing this to hurt anybody's feeling. It's nonsense. I don't buy it. And the second thing is, I'm not going to have any arguments with anybody in the comments because you can't defend it. You can't defend it, Kay. You don't know what you're even saying. I think it's because you've been told what to say. You actually don't have the depth to defend what you said because you didn't say it. You were told to say it. You were told to say it. Who helped you with this, by the way? Seeing as that other dude put you forward. Who helped you? Be honest, tell us who helped you script that. You know, I'm asking because everything you've raised in this little presentation of yours is the same as the stuff on that meme, which I debunked. So I'm just asking. So this, I'm not going to argue with anyone. Have you noticed in the clip? You should watch the whole clip. It's got a gazillion edits in it. Because it's one take after the other, get it right, do it again, do it again, do it again. She was told what to say. And then put forward as doctrinally sound. That's what's going on here. This, they're here to debunk the little season. That's why they're here. And they're doing it by conflating little seasonism with preterism, which is a lie. And they're doing it by misquoting, misinterpreting, using dispensationalism, Jesuitities, futurism, because they cannot afford for the little season to come out. Imagine the mess for them. That's why they're doing this. Okay, now for the final stretch of hooey.
But let's not deceive ourselves. They're working overtime to deceive us with that theory.
Okay, you're starting to see what I'm saying about this woman and her compadre.
They don't even have to do anything because you guys are deceiving each other, and everybody that believes in preterism spends all of their time just trying to convince others of it rather than actually just reading the Bible and figuring out that it's very clearly not the truth. No biblical Christian believes that we are in the short season. We all know the season that we are actually in.
That we all know, the theory. I'm pleading with you, please don't look at the little season. Please don't look at the little season is what she's doing there. And we all know what season we're in. We all know. That's a tactic. We all know. And if you don't know, you're an idiot. That's what she's saying. Got it?
You guys are not going to be spiritually prepared if you keep holding on to this preterism stuff.
I would spread the word, folks. Tell people about the little season because that's the season we're in. Do you see the desperation there? She's a them. She's not one of us. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. The spiritually prepared thing. We will now not be spiritually prepared. Okay. We're not dumb. If we're wrong, we're not going to. We'll be awake enough, to see what's going. But let's flip it around. What remains is what the Bible says. A lot of people have spiritualized this. A lot of futurists spiritualize this. Gog and Magog, encircling the camp of the saints, fire from heaven, fighting Jesus in the camp of the saints. People spiritualize this. But if we're in the little season, we don't spiritualize that at all. We say it's a physical encircling. Now, if you don't know about the little season, or you don't want to buy it because people like Kay gets you to not buy it, and you pick a side in an incoming war. You got maybe NATO on the one side and BRICS on the other, and you pick a side, and you go and in effect support a war against Jesus, the camp of the saints. Which literally somebody asked me the other day, camp of the saints? Source? I had to say the Bible. But you now don't know about this because you've spiritualized it all and you've forgotten about Revelation 20 because you're so worried about 14, What do you think is going to happen? You think that's going to be very good? Eve, despite having been deceived by the serpent with his "did God say," had to bear the consequences. Okay? So why do people go, did Jesus say? Did Jesus say? Did Jesus say? We have warnings in the Bible that say don't trust men, don't believe men. Believe Jesus. Believe on Jesus. Believe in Jesus. If we don't believe what he says, do we believe? Do we believe? If we believe a lie, do we believe? Is eschatology as non-salvational as we've been programmed to believe and say? Even I do it. Or does it become a problem when one buys a lie and you pick the wrong side? Even totally unwittingly pick the wrong side. At which point does it become a problem? At which point do we believe the tosh that C.S. Lewis, also a them, wrote in the last paragraph here? He's basically calling Matthew 16:28 the most embarrassing verse in the Bible. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Or should we just believe K over Jesus?
This is why it's so important to read the Bible, guys. Do not let others deceive you. Don't deceive yourself by reading conspiracy theories. Just read the book.
Yes, very important to read the Bible. But you know what else is really important, Kay? Believe what it says. Believe what Jesus says. Don't make this that. And genia, genos. And insert a temple which shouldn't be there. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Her little presentation really irked me to the point that I just had to do this. Because I see her. Thank you for watching.